I want to fight the battles within the industry. Although it is boring, it's slow, it's commercial, it's bullshit, but there are the real challenges and there we can really change something.
Hello, I'm Marcus Fairs. I'm the founder and editor-in-chief of Dezeen, the online architecture and design magazine. And this is our face-to-face podcast series in which I sit down with some of the leading architects and designers and talk to them about their lives and their careers. In this episode, I speak to Hella Jongerius. She's a Dutch designer who many people regard as the most important female designer in the world. Although when I put this to her, she rejected the idea that creativity had anything to do with her gender. Hella's had an incredible and often overlooked impact on the visual world around us. She's worked in furniture, industrial design, she's worked for airlines. In particular, the pioneering work she's done with colour has really changed attitudes to how colour should be used in design. Hella's based in Berlin, but I caught up with her in Eindhoven during Dutch Design Week, and as usual, she was really outspoken about the commercial world in which she operates. She described it as boring, slow, bullshit. Anyway, I hope you'll enjoy the thought-provoking and feisty conversation I had with Hella about her quest to rid the world of shit design. This episode is sponsored by Twinmotion, the real-time architectural visualization solution for creating stunning visuals and immersive experiences in seconds. Learn more at twinmotion.com. Hi, Hella. Good to see you again.
Hello.
I'd like you to start off by describing who you are and what you do. What would you describe your role as?
Oh, my role as a human being, or as a designer, as a mother, or as a woman, or what is...
As a designer, I mean, the reason I ask this is because you're often described as an industrial designer. So would you agree with that definition?
Yeah, I think I like to be in the position of an industrial designer, although I'm also an outside category, I think. But I call myself an industrial designer just because it's not really fitting.
Exactly, and I think that's what I'd like to talk to you about, because you're an industrial designer that kind of defies many of the expectations of what industrial design is.
You could say I'm not an industrial designer, but if you look at the outcome of my work, so the end result, but my view, my starting point is always from the field of industrial design. And although maybe the outcome is shown in a museum or on a cultural podium, at the starting point is always being an industrial designer.
Tell me how you became a designer. Tell me about your upbringing and how did you first become aware that there was a thing called design?
Yeah, well, I was very late in knowing what I wanted to study. I'm not having any cultural background. I'm coming from farmers' family. So I never saw a museum or having nice concert or good music or cultural background. So it took a while before I knew what to do, and I started to first study creative therapy to become a therapist. And I thought, oh my God, this is totally not for me. So I started to do carpentry studies in the evening, and I did that for 3 years. So I had all my carpentry diplomas, and then I thought I wanted to do something more creative, and in that time, I also met a lot of people that are in art academies. And then I thought, I don't think I need to have more boundaries. At the age of 25, I applied for the Design Academy in Eindhoven. And then I was not selected because I was too technical. They told me, you're too technical. And then I did a lot of studies, more workshops, painting, and in this 1 year, and then I applied again, and then I started to study at the age of 26. I think that made it also possible to fly away so high in the sky. Immediately when I left the school, I was in droog design, and I knew what I wanted, and I was very focused when I came from the school because I had a formal life and knew what I wanted to do.
And we'll talk about the droog years in a minute, but are you saying that you discovered design by accident by doing some woodworking classes in the evening?
Yeah.
So did you find that you were naturally able to do carpentry, that it was easy for you?
Yeah. I have creative hands. And raised up in the 70s, we girls, we sat together and knitted and macrame, decorating our room. And so the creativity was in the air. I knew I had intelligent hands.
And you said you got rejected the first time around by Design Academy Eindhoven for being too technical. What did they mean by that?
Well, I only came with my drawings from the carpenter school, so that's all industrial design. So I need to be technical. So I didn't have any free work with me. So that's why I was rejected.
But you could have applied to a more technical industrial design school. I mean, it's lucky that you didn't, but Design Academy Eindhoven does have a reputation for being the opposite of technical, being very humanistic, being very sort of sensual in its approach.
Yeah, but at that time it was more technical. So it was still called Industrial Design Academy. It was not the Design Academy. I also thought I wanted to learn to design appliances. I really wanted to do, I wanted to work at Philips, something like this. That was my...
Because I guess in those days, Eindhoven still was the city dominated by Philips, and Design Academy Eindhoven started as the technical school attached to the Philips industry, right?
Yeah, so that was my foreland, my dream.
You completed your studies at Design Academy Eindhoven. You thought you wanted to design shavers and household appliances for Philips. At what point did you change your mind and realize that wasn't for you?
Oh, that was immediately. I came in a realm of creative people and so many topics that interested me. And on a certain moment, a teacher told me, hey, you have to do something with textiles. And I was like, textiles? My mother is doing textiles. I was really not interested at all. I thought, oh my God, they pushed me in the female corner. Don't want to be there. And at the end, I knew I have a talent. My talent is in that direction. So
after initially rejecting their attempts to gender stereotype you, you actually found that those kind of areas were a richer area for you to explore.
Yeah. I liked it very much because it was the most hands-on study also, department. But I didn't graduate to textile, so I graduated with rubber vases. That was the first project that was also taken by Droog Design. But I graduated with inflatable textiles. That was my end diploma, and rubber vases. Yeah.
So quite a radical approach to traditional forms.
Yeah.
So tell us about the whole Droog time then, because Droog was a hugely influential movement, really put Dutch designers on a map and introduced a whole new approach to design, a kind of so-called conceptual approach. So how did you come across Droog and how did they help your career? What was that era like?
Well, when I was graduated, I was invited to come to a meeting of Droog Design, and my graduation work was selected to go to Milan. And that was the second year that they went to Milano with a bigger group, with other people, other formal students from the Design Academy. After this first year, I think they already started to give assignments for us, and I started to work with concepts and creating objects for Droog Design. And at the same time, we could apply for funding. So they didn't pay us, but we could apply for funding in Holland. I think I had the first 5-year funding. So each year you could apply again. And that was a very luxury position, of course, because I could do what I wanted to do. So in a way, self-initiated, because you could come with your own solutions on the questions they were asking. And they showed the work all around the world in the right context and meeting the right network to pick it all up. So it's, of course, very nice if your work falls together in time, if you're on a wave with others. And that was a very lucky moment. And, not only luck, because, you also have to have some talent or do the right thing on the right moment. So the group, we met each other at Gijs or Rennie's house, I think every 3 months, and showed your work and then go home again and you worked on your own. And then we saw all the work stand next to each other in Milano.
And tell us a little bit about that spirit, because that was a time when lots of now very famous Dutch designers came through at the same time. So what was it like to be part of that group, and who were the other people that you became friendly with?
Yeah, it was with Marcel Wanders and Jurgen Bij. It looked like if you were still at school, although you didn't have a teacher, but it was the same group you studied with. And now we showed not as a graduation show, but in Milan. Yeah, it was exciting, but it was also like, this is the way it goes. Yeah, I was not aware that it was so special at that time. Of course, I was very happy to be part of it and to learn from the others and hang out, like with Jurgen, I'm still very good friends, and that you grow up together. very happy time. But we worked our ass off. It was not like we get it for free, They were very strict. If we came every 3 months, they were, Gijs and Rennie, they were like super strict. I had to do even more my best than when I was in the school. So I worked my ass off. And also to get new funding every year, you had to really deliver. So
the co-founders of Droch were Gijs Bakker and Rennie Remmeke as a man and a woman, but you were pretty much the only woman amongst that group of designers, is that right?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
And was that ever an issue? I mean, we talked today so much about gender balance in the creative professions, but was it an issue? Was it talked about? Did it make it more difficult for you?
No, but at that time, I think there were more women at the table, so at the meetings, but my work was more explored in Milan or in magazines. No, it was never an issue. We didn't talk about it at all. No, never.
And so after the Droch era, tell us about how you set up your studio and then your work expanded into working for airlines and the United Nations and, of course, the furniture that you've done for Vitra and so on. But tell us about the next stage in your career.
So the next stage was the first assignment from outside came from Maharam in New York, upholstery company. I gave a lecture in Aspen at a design festival, and they asked me to make an object for their 100 years anniversary. And I made repeat, so a fabric that repeats after 3 meters and not after 30 centimeters. And the start of this project, they told me it doesn't have to be commercial, so I was free to do whatever. And when it was finished, it was very commercial, so they were very happy with it. So we continued working till now. So I'm making upholstery fabrics for them every year, 3 or 4 fabrics. So that's my first and still a client that I'm working for. And then Michael Maharam introduced me to Vitra, to Rolf Elbaum, after I think 3 years. Yeah, and we started a conversation, and he asked me to work on several items, and I picked out the sofa as the first item because I thought, very difficult. He also asked me, are you interested to do a sofa? I said, well, a sofa, I don't have a sofa. I hate sofas. And then he said, yeah, well, if you hate them, maybe it's a good starting point to start to design a sofa. And that's how it all started. And I did the polder sofa very quickly. So in 1 year it was developed and produced. And it was also immediately a success. And at the same time, the B service that I did for Droog Design, Imperfection, was picked up by Makkum, the porcelain factory in Holland. And so I had at that time, I think, after 8 years, 9 years after my graduation, I had in 1 year 3 items in industrial produced that had the same theme, like individuality, although it was industrial produced. So there was a concept or a voice or a vision of mine in the air. And I think that was also a powerful moment. And from that point on, I was asked by many other companies to work for them. And yeah.
Tell us about the polder sofa. In what way, someone who doesn't have a sofa and hates sofas, how did you then design a sofa, and what was different about it to the sofas that you didn't like?
The point is that a sofa takes so much space in your house, and you can't make it very loud because you don't want to have this huge expressive animal somewhere in your house shouting all the time. So it is very balancing act between absence and presence, a sofa. And I think that's in general a topic in design, that you have to balance between absence and presence. And what I really don't like is that it has this one appearance. So it is always one color or one block of foam, or this makes it even bigger. And that's why I thought I want to cut it up in parts, and also knowing that customers doesn't know anything about fabric, I wanted to help them and pick out different tones of fabric and different fabrics, so cotton, wool, all kinds of materials, also blends, and in one color range. So all the reds, the greens. There was a green sofa, there was a red sofa. And then also this asymmetrical way of placing the cushions. And that made it all together into a different language of a sofa.
And you talked about when you were at Design Academy Eindhoven, you graduated with a rubber vase, and then you did a textile from Maharam, which had a much longer repeat than is traditional, and then you designed a sofa which kind of broke all the rules of a sofa. So do you have an approach to design which is to deliberately do the opposite of what you're expected to do, or does that naturally come out that way? What is your process when you're given a new project?
I think it starts with questions and analyzing what is on the market and what do I have and what do I like and what are my friends having and why are we not having. Yeah, I think I turned it first upside down. Yeah. But there was also a time that you could come with the opposite. Now it's quite difficult because everybody is doing the opposite or the variation on the original. At that time there was emptier, the field was emptier. You could do the opposite or you could write another road. Now all the styles and all the concepts are in the air and are being made. So it's quite difficult to come up with a solution nobody thought of. And also all the companies are interested in the outsider.
What do you mean companies are interested in the outsider?
In originality and something new that looks new and different than what they have. The average you can't sell. In the field I'm working, so I'm working with top of the pyramid. So, yeah.
So your approach to a new project is almost to think about it, first of all, but do you sketch? Do you write? How do you turn your idea into an end product? What's your working process?
I make models, so I start to glue and cut and make models. Yeah, and I write, I analyze, I'm looking what was done before, not only in the history or in the archive of design, but also what is this specific company having in their archive? What kind of machines do they have? What is their production system? So what is their DNA? So that's what I'm always looking at. And also what is relevant? What is relevant for this company? What's relevant today? What's relevant for me? So I think that's the main starting point, the relevance.
And talk about your work at Vitra, because you have a creative directorship or something like that at the company. And I know from speaking to you in the past that you said that you're happy working with the classics. You've said things like, I don't know why we need to have new products when there's existing products. And you've done lots of explorations with colour, for example, of how you can change a product just by simply changing the colour. So talk about the work you've been doing with Vitra.
Yeah, so I'm the creative director of colors and materials. So I was asked by Rolf on a certain moment, the director, Rolf Velbaum, would you like to have an Eames lounge chair? And I was like, oh no, no, thank you. Because I think, yes, like a papa chair, it's really not of my interest. And then he said there were a few variations. There was also a white one, but that was done for a boat. And I looked at it and then he said, yeah, maybe we can work on this light version. And I said, well, yeah, I think I can make it much better because the white leather was very harsh white. It's like, you need to have sunglasses to look at it. So I really collected or also dyed on in the process very nice leather in a kind of very light, crisp white, grayish, very nice. And then we looked for good wood with it that created a nice, light version of the Eames chair. And working in this field and doing the polder sofa at the same time, I looked also at all the other objects, the Eames chairs, the plastic chairs. And then on a certain moment I said, I could do so much more because I could analyze your collection and make a system or a path. And I came up with the idea of making a library for them, so color and material library. And that's what I created. So for all the designers, for the designers that are no longer with us, so the classic designers, so Eames, Prouvé, and so on, I created color worlds that they have been doing in their lives. And also for the contemporary designers, I looked at what kind of colors and materials they are working in and created also kind of idea of where they are or what their atmosphere is. And then there is all kinds of new materials and it's all in a system. Yeah, and I created new textiles. We also have our own textiles in the collection, specially done for furniture. So not general fabrics, but really based on particular furniture within the company. So I think it is a nice collection altogether and also an open library. Some things go out, some colors go out, some colors go in. Everybody is free to move around, but it has a direction, it is focused, and I think it's working very well.
Some people might have been a bit intimidated to touch a classic, but for you, that you had no problem with taking a classic Eames chair and saying it should be a different color?
No. Why? Yeah. Also, within the company, there are people who take care of the do's and don'ts. So I feel free to touch it. And I also think, classics only live longer if they have a contemporary follow-up. And no, I'm not afraid at all.
And then a couple of years ago, you got together with Louise Schoenberg and you produced this manifesto. It's called Beyond the New, I think. Talk about that. Why did you do that? And what were you saying? It was quite a controversial move.
Yeah, that was in 2015. Again, in Milan coming up. And, every year when I go to Milan, I come home depressed and all energy is out. It doesn't give you anything. There's so much bullshit happening over there. So we thought, I'm working with Louisa since a long time, so we talk a lot about design, and we wrote a few books together. And then we thought we have to do something totally different. We'd write a manifest on Beyond the New. What else? What else could be a meaning within an object or within our profession, only than having another style, a new style. And it's now occupied by the economics and marketing terms like only. The new is a qualification. So that's why we wrote this manifest. And that was immediately picked up. Everybody saw it, although it was just a stack somewhere in all these events going on. But it was very well picked up. And the next year we were asked by Serpentine Galleries in London to make a follow-up. And I also wanted to do it much more. I really wanted to give it an answer in objects or in material and finding solutions, or beyond the new, finding a way to search behind appearances. That was the whole topic, and we showed that also in Milan. And so there is this whole research beyond style, and that our profession is also caught by marketing and by economics, and there is so much more. What are the cultural layers in an object, and how can you find innovation, or how can you read it for consumers? How do you know, looking at a design object, which one has more quality than the others? So I think that's an important topic nowadays. And the last years, everybody's talking about climate and circular materials and environmental issues. But there is, I think, so much more. And that's why I'm also very happy to show now. Lately, I did a few research projects, one on color for the Design Museum in London, and just did one on weaving, that I'm no longer studying in objects that are an end result as an object in an industrial system, but to do a research and show this on a cultural podium. That's a total other way to communicate to visitors or to users, to tell them something about what an object could be, or how you can read it, how you can relate to it, because I think I'm not a designer that designs objects, but I design on this relation between an object and a human being. That's something that really interests me, and I think that's also an answer on overconsumption, that you get a relation, and we are related with our objects. We are who we are with the stuff around us. So I really am interested to work on this relation, and color was now one theme. Also a reaction on the flat color world, in industrial flat color world, that we don't have quality any longer in color. And now in weaving, that we're losing our skills and the fast fashion, but also weaving as a cultural phenomenon, not as a material. Also color not as a material, but as a cultural phenomenon. It's in our genes, it's in our culture, it's in our art, everywhere. And it is in design only shown as an economic topic. Like weaving, it's only about fastness and cheap, and same for color. So that's why I'm now more in the research and try to get attention on certain topics I think are relevant. Again, about relevancy. Yeah.
And around about the same time as you wrote the manifesto with Louise, you made that famous speech at Design Indaba in Cape Town when I was there, and you said there was too much shit design.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, there's too much shit design. It's easy to say. The answer is so much more difficult. What I'm now doing, trying to find, what's my answer, and how can I come with more meaningful work, because we can't say you're not allowed to design anymore, and we can't say to the young generation you're not allowed to design new objects. That's not the point. Every generation has the right to come with their own objects, their own style, their own handwriting. We have to find more layers than just a new item. yeah
Because there is a paradox, there is a conundrum at the heart of being a designer. So many designers care about the planet, they care about climate change, they care about pollution and loss of skills and crafts, but you're part of this machine, even if you hate the commercialization, you hate the overconsumption, you're part of that machine. How do you handle that dilemma personally?
I always thought, that's why I also call myself industrial designer. I want to fight the battles within the industry. So I don't want to be standing outside. I now know how the wheel turns within the industry. And yeah, I can make small steps. I also see it as an opportunity. Each boundary within the industry is a moment to create or to use your creative mind to change something in the system. And I think the industries, they have the power. You can really make big steps if you change something within industry. So that's why I think it is a podium where we all have to be, although it is boring, it's slow, it's commercial, it's bullshit, but there are the real challenges and there we can really change something. So that's why I still believe and I'm still working within industry. Yeah.
And how can you help persuade industry to be more circular or to be less damaging? I mean, do you feel like as a designer you have a power to make a change?
Yeah, totally. And I think now it is easy because now everybody knows, this 2030, everybody wants to be clean at that moment. So all the eyes are on one goal. At this particular moment, everybody knows the particular goals and they have to follow and they have to be clean. Otherwise, the consumers will not buy your stuff. So it is also the power from the consumers. So I think designers have a power, but the consumers have the main power. That's why I'm also showing my work in a museum, because there you can reach consumers without talking via their purse, via their wallet. I talk with them on another level. They're more open. They come to a show and I tell them something about quality colors, weaving. And with this knowledge, they know what to buy or not to buy. And consumers have a lot of power, as we all know. So from a few points, industry knows that they have to change. And so in a way, the last years, it's easier than 5 years ago, because 5 years ago was more greenwashing. They all wanted to have it as a sexy thing, to change something. But now they really know they have to they have to do something, otherwise they lose their customers, because the young generation doesn't take any bullshit. So.
And you mentioned 2030. Is that the Dutch?
No, it's a European rule. So you have to be clean. So you have to have your circular materials. And that's a goal for many companies.
And how much do you think the fact that you're Dutch has influenced the work that you do? Is there a Dutchness to your approach? Is there a Dutchness to your work?
Well, that's always very difficult to say for yourself. I don't know. I find that always somebody else can say that so much more. But I know what I also like, we started to talk about how I started, and I'm raised in the 70s. And I was really, if people ask me when I was 12 or 13, what do you want to be as a grown up? And I always said, I want to be a hippie. That will be my goal. And in a way, I'm now falling together in time, because there is this whole activism, what was always in me. So I'm an activist. But now, the younger generation under me is activistic. We're all going for the planet. We're all, in a way, hippies again. And I'm falling together in time. I have the feeling that it is perfect time for me now in my profession to tell something. I have a position. I feel responsible. I feel very much at ease at this particular moment in my career. Yeah.
And you were brought up on a farm, so were you actually surrounded by animals? Did you milk the cows? What was the farm upbringing like?
My father had tomatoes, like real Dutch tomatoes, and flowers.
But you no longer live in Holland. You're based in...
I'm based in Berlin since 12 years, yeah.
So why did you move to Berlin?
Yeah, well, in Holland it was so comfortable. I had a nice house, a good atelier. I knew the network, and then I'm starting to get very bored. And I thought, I want to move. I want to find myself again, and also be a beginner in a culture. So that's why we looked outside and didn't know where to go. So we went to Brussels. We wanted to go to second best cities. That was the idea. And then we stayed in Berlin, and we're still there. And I'm happy, because there is, you're a bit outside not a bit, you're outside your own culture. And also in a country where there is no design discourse or an other design discourse, it's more related to industry. and I don't have any client in Germany. But to be more concentrated on my own, to create my own world and not part of a huge group of designers in Holland, I find it, I'm a free bird, a free spirit. So I could make my own life and my own way of working, and very happy.
And what is the setup you have in Berlin? Do you have a lot of people working for you? Describe your studio and your situation.
Yeah, I've got a studio in the backyard of 3 floors, an old building, and I've got 4 people working permanent. And then each time when I have a new project, I invite young people, or a group of young people, to work with me for a year, for 2 years, and then they fly out. They have their own agenda and their own way of working. So yeah, it's expanding, growing, and sometimes now we're small again. So we just finished this project in Paris in Anticipation about weaving. Now they're all gone, so the coming half a year I'm concentrated again on a new topic. I want to be in a smaller group, and then I think in January I start inviting people again to create a nice team with all kinds of smart hands and geeks and people that can weave and other people that can 3D print and whatever, and then we build up a world again.
You've done a lot of work with KLM, the airline, as well. Tell us how that came about, because that kind of combines space, fabric, furniture, but in a very different environment from the domestic environment.
Yes, we're now working with them, I think, for 10 years. I did 3 types of airplanes. So I started with the 747. I did 787 and another, now lately, I don't know what number that is. But so I did 3 times another chair. And the whole cabin, business class, and for the 787 also economy, so from rear to tail, all the fabrics and the seats and the class dividers and everything. So when they ask me, they just ask me to do only the textiles, I think. Yeah, they only ask me to do the class dividers and the carpets. And then I said, but who's doing the chair? And they said, well, the chair is just, we buy this chair. I said, come on, that's not possible. Let me look at this chair. And we could only add or change some stylish element that was not really possible because the molds were ready. So all the other airlines uses the same mold. So we could only add some small items or change some small things. And then for the next airline, for the next float, because from each float, 20 jumbos, they make 20 aircrafts. We could do the full chair for the 787, and now we do another chair, and then next year we will do an economy premium chair. So I think it's a bit strange to work for aviation with my activistic, idealistic mentality, but I do think I can add something also from within and make steps and push them. We now have created wool, so the seats are made from a woolen fabric, so it's much more convenient if you travel for a long time. And the carpet is cradle to cradle, so we used stewardess cloth, so their uniforms, because they received new uniforms, and we destroyed the uniforms, spun new yarns, and those yarns are within the carpet on the floor. It's the first cradle to cradle carpet in aviation. And we have very much crafty details and very nice leather parts. And I think we created a human space within this very harsh industrial world and inconvenient space. And I think small steps, but this is the way this world works. And I'm happy to have also the high-end industrial, because it's all about safety and lightness, and the boundaries are so strict, but I still can be creative and I still can push things forward, because each chair we change something that we think, oh my God, we did it this time,
And does your typical airline passenger notice these changes? When you step onto one of the planes that you've done for KLM, does it feel different? Do you get feedback from passengers?
You haven't sit in it.
No.
Yeah, I got a lot of people that tell me that they're very, very happy to be in the plane and feel comfortable and have a nice duvet where they sleep on, and that the pillows are comfortable, and it's maybe not all in your face, and you don't need to see it all. My handwriting is not on it, But I think I did a good job. If you look at the other airplanes, I think I did a very pleasant space to be in.
So what things are you working on now, and what are your plans for the future?
For now, I'm really, really thinking of what can I add in the industrial world. So what to do, because last year I took a sabbatical. So I said no to all clients for a year because I wanted to find out what could be my next steps. And I bought a digital loom and I started to weave again just to understand the techniques, because working for so long in textiles, all the experts around me knew so much more than I. And also in the textile world for upholstery, it's all about speed. There's not a lot of development in quality, and also the looms in the factories are so high speed and so technical that you, as a creative person, you can't go in the looms anymore because they're just like computers. And I wanted to have a digital loom to understand it again and to come to new knowledge and also to concentrate on one topic. And then there was this invitation to do a show in the gallery Anticipation, and that was about weaving, and we turned the whole building into a loom. So the whole building was one loom. I was hoping for a very quiet year, but we worked on this exhibition, what was a lot of work, but very pleasant, very nice. So the coming year, I have to find out what could be my role for industry and what can I do for the clients that I like. Weaving is still on my agenda because it is very relevant. Yeah, it takes some time to, I'm not on a track like, I have to, whatever, I really want to spend my time on things that matter.
And speaking of things that matter, you mentioned right at the beginning that you have a family, and whether I was asking about how you describe yourself as a mother. So how do you balance family life and work life? How does your year look? Do you take a lot of holidays with your family? Are you a workaholic? Are you always on a plane to see your next client?
No, I'm very happy that I have children, so they protect me for not being a workaholic. No, I take the holidays off, but I've got also a husband who takes care of the girls, so I'm not alone. And I'm also very efficient, and I can take very quick decisions. And I think that's also something you learn if you're a parent. You can't waste your time. You just make your decisions and make your road. And in a way, it is quite well balanced. I also believe that, taking a step back, that you don't sit on your children the whole day long. It's very, very healthy for both of us. So no, I'm relaxed about it, but I'm not always home with a cup of tea.
You're often described as, the most important or one of the most important female designers in the world, or most influential female designers in the world. Does that mean anything to you? Would you agree with that? Do you define yourself as a female designer even?
Well, I find it very stupid, as if my creativity is in my breast. So there is no leak. There's no female leak. There is just, you're a designer and I'm one of the designers. So,
Hella, thank you very much. It's been great talking to you.
You're welcome.
Thanks for listening. This podcast was sponsored by Twinmotion and produced by our in-house creative team, Dezeen Studio, with music by Yuri Suzuki from Pentagram. To find out more, go to dezeen.com/podcasts. You can keep up to date on past and future episodes of Face to Face by subscribing on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify.